Hi guys, welcome to the Happy, Healthy, and Fit Revolution, where you can quickly discover ways to start a new healthy lifestyle, boost your immunity, and achieve real results. I'm Heather Binns, your host for today from Renovate Fitness in North Hollywood, California, and I'm here to help you shatter your self-imposed glass ceilings to reach your fullest potential and unprecedented levels of fulfillment. My goal for this show is to have you finally choose your optimal path to a new healthy lifestyle. And today I'm proud to bring you Carrie Collins from Stretch Chi in Chicago. And Stretch Chi focuses on what's called the Kihara method of stretching. And I'm sure a lot of you don't know what that is, and she is going to explain it to us today. And one of the reasons I brought Carrie on is because I actually met her through my husband years and years ago. And she came to Los Angeles. I took one of her classes and I loved it. And I just know that I never really hear much about Kihara stretching, and I thought this is going to be a great way to share it with the world and to also give you another opportunity to live a healthier lifestyle by applying this method. So Carrie, how did you get involved in Kihara stretching?
Oh my goodness. Well, actually the way that I know your husband, Steve, is because we were in band together. We were like band nerds.
Way back in the day.
Way back in the day. I still am a piano player professionally before my Kihara career started. And I still teach and play occasionally, but I played pretty intensely. I went to college for music and then worked as a pianist for about 10 years. And I ruined my shoulders. Just completely wrecked my rotator cuffs. I had no clue that that could even be an issue. I mean, some pianists get like tendonitis in their forearms and your fingers, but like my shoulders were wrecked. So, I was in my 20s and in so much pain that I could barely function. I mean, I would like come home from work every night and go to bed. I was in bed by 7 p.m. I was like, so lame. I couldn't even blow dry my hair because my arms hurt so bad I couldn't rotate them this way because the piano is this way and all this strength comes forward. So, and from your back and, there's so much stuff happening, but it's a lot of like this kind of movement. And so anything where it was like external rotation, holding books, brushing my teeth, like all kinds of things like that were just not just excruciating pain, but like fatigue, extreme fatigue. Like even like trying to blow dry my hair, I'd have to like hold my arm up to brush my teeth even for those like 2 minutes of brushing my teeth. So lucky me, I was living in San Francisco and down the street, a guy had just gotten certified in this method in resistance stretching. It wasn't called Kihara at that point. It was just a resistance stretching method. And he put an ad on Craigslist. So I was searching so hard. I mean, I was looking for everything and I was trying everything and, yoga, Pilates, personal trainers, physical therapy, massage, Feldenkrais, Alexander technique. I mean, I did everything I could think of. I even had my chakras aligned and like my past lives read, like I did all of it.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really searching. So where it really came up was I found an article about fascia. And I was having a lot of jaw pain, neck pain. I couldn't turn my head, like all kinds of problems. And I found this article. This is 2003. 2003. There are probably listeners out there that are like, I was a baby.
That's okay.
It was a long time ago. So I found this article on like, what was the internet back then? Netscape. I found this article on the old internet about fascia. And it said that tightness in your quads could cause tightness in your jaw. And I was like, what? That doesn't make sense. And then as I read more, it kind of started to make sense to me a lot, actually, about how different parts of your body could be pulling on different areas. And that once it doesn't have anywhere else to go, then all the tightness shows up here, or in your feet, or in your hands, or, So that was kind of like the first step where I was like, I need my muscles balanced. I need stretched. And then I went on Craigslist and this guy was like, I stretch muscles. And I was like, oh my God. So I went to this guy's studio apartment in the Mission District. I could have gotten killed. I mean, like looking back on it now, I can't even believe I did it. I rang his doorbell and I was like, well, I might die today, but my shoulders will hopefully be better tomorrow. Luckily I didn't die. And I was his first client. He worked on me on his dining room table in his studio apartment. I fixed it like that. And I mean, not even just my shoulders, but everything. I had, it's self-stretching where you can do, like he taught me some stretches I could do on my own, but also assisted stretching, which is way more effective. And so he did all these assisted stretches on me. And I'll tell you, I worked with him from like September of 2003 until I moved to Chicago, which was the end of that year in December, every 2 weeks or so. And my whole body changed and none of my problems have come back ever at all since.
Wow.
It's amazing. So anyway, that was my first like into Kihara, into the resistance stretching world. And I kind of have an obsessive personality a little bit. And I just was like, I must know everything. But there weren't many people doing this. I would say probably like 7 or 8 people in the world. I just happened to luck out that there was somebody close to me who was doing it. But then when I moved to Chicago, there's nobody. There were no books, there was nothing on the internet, nothing. So, so it just, through the course of time, it took me about 4 or 5 years to get certified or to start the certification process. And then I dove head first. I mean, my trainers were living in Coral Gables. They were working with Dara Torres for the 2008 Olympics. She was a 5-time Olympian. She started her Olympics battle, what would you call that, her Olympic career in 1984, the same year as Mary Lou Retton, like wow. That long. So she was going back for swimming in 2008. She was 41 years old and had just had a baby.
Wow.
So she was working with my trainers, with my, who certified me weekly, and they traveled with her to the Olympics. They did everything with her. And so I just started going to Florida. I was like, I'm coming to your house. Like, are you guys okay with that? I'm just going to come to your house. Put it all on my credit card. I'm probably still paying it off. I don't even know. And I just got on a plane and would stay at their house and stretch and go to the pool and stretch the other swimmers and watch and, you know, as much as I could absorb. And then, you know, it became my career. And so now I do group classes, well, not so much because COVID, but the group classes, workshops like you went to, private sessions, of course, which are the assisted sessions like I was telling you about. And also we do certifications. So certifications for self-stretching, but also certifications for assisted stretching too, and retreats. And I mean, it's been so fun. I've been all over the place. So
right. So tell us, for those that haven't heard of it or are very new to it, can you tell a little bit more about what exactly, I know you said it's resistance stretching, but can you explain that more to people, kind of like in layman's terms for the general population to understand?
I won't get
to what kind of benefits will they see from this?
Right. So basically the main difference is that when you stretch like you think about stretching, you usually do a passive stretch, which means that you stretch, lengthen the muscle out and hold it and count and wait and hope that it'll open up on its own. But I think that works for some people. It doesn't work for everyone, and it definitely didn't work for me. I mean, I had tried everything and that never worked. Resistance stretching worked so fast for me. So basically what resistance stretching is you are starting with the muscle short and you contract the muscle so you get the muscle engaged, and then you keep that engagement the entire time that you're stretching the muscle, so there's tension within the muscle. And so as you're going to the lengthening portion of the muscle, it's activating the inside muscle fibers, like from the sarcomere, like inside the sarcomere is where we're actually stretching, if you know what that is. It's basically like the cell of the muscle, like the inner fibers. And so it's starting to pull apart like tens of thousands of sarcomeres within each muscle fiber, and then multiply that by a gazillion fibers. And then you've got a stretched muscle that's stretching from the belly of the muscle. It activates the muscle in a different way. And by activating in that way, it creates more strength in the muscle. It creates more spring in the muscle. It creates a muscle that can put on the brakes when it gets to an extreme range of motion. Like for instance, I had a client today who was telling me he went to a personal trainer, and the trainer was like, I just want to see what happens if you hold a bar and stretch from your lats and just hang there. And the trainer was like, how long do you think you held that for? And he held it for like a minute and a half, at over a minute and a half, which is a lot. And he'd never done it before. Yeah. But we had trained his lats in a way that he knew that he had extreme range of motion, but he was safe and he could pull himself out. Mm-hmm. Most people don't have that kind of stability, or they don't have that kind of like neuromuscular connection that says you're safe here. So for instance, like if you were doing, I don't know, if you were playing baseball and someone threw a baseball at you, you catch the baseball and your arm like could come back this way, right? Or it could go way over your head, and you don't know if you're really stable. And that's sometimes how people hurt their shoulders, because it's coming too fast and it's too much. But with a muscle that's trained with resistance stretching, when the ball hits you, it starts an eccentric stretch. It starts that slow down motion. Your body already knows. The muscle is talking to your brain. Everybody's cool. It knows I can go this far and still push back out of it. So you have a protected joint. But also, because of the resistance stretch and the way that we've trained to get more spring in the muscle, and it's very sciencey, but there's actually a calcium binds to the myosin and the actin and creates like a stronger piece of titin. If anybody knows what that is, that's pretty cool. So that titin is like the spring portion of the filament in the layman's terms. So
okay, I'm sure some people understand it all. I understand some of it.
No, I'm just going to shut up. But it's basically, it creates a stronger spring. So when the muscle goes back, the spring is stronger. So it's like every time you do a resistance stretch, it's almost like taking a flimsy spring that doesn't bounce back. It might stretch a lot, but it might not bounce back, or it might just be stuck. It's like replacing the spring with a spring that can stretch a lot and contract back really strongly at the same time.
Okay.
But it gives us more stability. So that's the basic idea of it. But how do you do it is probably the other question.
Yeah. Like, can you give us an example?
Sure.
And I do some self stretches. So maybe you can give an example of showing a resisted stretch and kind of walking us through what's going on as you're doing the different parts of that stretch.
Sure. So I'm in my studio. So
perfect.
So I'm just gonna do a quad stretch for you, because this is a really great one, and I can also show you some of the benefits that go with it. So this stretch is a basic quad stretch. So like most people would sometimes even think like, whoa, that's too extreme for me, especially if they're really tight.
Yeah.
So getting someone sat up in this position can be really tricky, but it's mainly because there might be an issue with the hamstring or with the foot, or there could be an issue with the inner thighs too. So I can talk to you about that too. There's an entire problem-solving formula that goes with this method. So in a resistance stretch, you push into the wall. So it's like I'm trying to straighten my leg out, and that activates my quad muscle and it throws me forward. My other leg is going to resist that force and push me back. So I'm actually active the whole time, and then I'm moving the whole time too. I do about 10 repetitions of each stretch. So as I'm coming forward here, this muscle's shortening, I'm getting strength training, and as I come back, I'm going into the stretch. So it's kind of like when you pull your foot up to your butt for a stretch. It's kind of like that. Now, what's really cool about this is that as I'm stretching here, this muscle's shortening, my hamstring's lengthening, and as I come back the other way, now my quad is lengthening, but my hamstring has to shorten. And this is where a lot of people get into problems. There's a barrier there. If my hamstring can't shorten all the way, it's the same thing I was talking about before with the spring. If the spring can't contract all the way, then it won't allow you to stretch. It will actually create a barrier and stop me. So a lot of times people think they need to keep doing quad stretches because the quad is tight. And they're like, well, if I just sit here long enough, it'll fix itself. When the problem really is a hamstring problem. So like if I go into a resistance stretch for my hamstring, it'll create that spring back in the hamstring, and then that'll allow this hamstring to contract. So a lot of what happens in the Kihara world or in my classes is a lot of diagnosing whether or not the stretch is working for you, whether you feel it in the right place or don't feel it in the right place, or whether you feel it at all, or if there's cramping, if there's pain. And if there are problems like that, then I actually have people do different stretches, and those different stretches will create the solution that will allow you to get into your quad stretch.
Okay.
Sorry, I feel like I'm rambling a lot, but it's
good. It's good. I mean, obviously I'm in the fitness industry and I work with clients all the time, and I focus more on like that dynamic active stretching, which is the Kihara resistant stretching is an active dynamic stretch because you are moving. And so I use that kind of active dynamic stretching with my clients beforehand, because the body's not ready to go to that end point of motion and just hold a position in a full stretch because the muscles are cold. The body's cold, right? and then we work out. And then at the end, then that's when I'm more open to using static stretching with my clients, because their bodies are already warm. They're able to comfortably get into a position, but get to that point where there is a stretch, but they can hold it, which is the what you were calling the passive, or what I call static stretching, because there's no movement, and then they can hold it. But this resistance stretching, what's great about that, and what I'm taking of it being different than the typical active dynamic and the typical static, is you've got that constant strengthening, relaxation, strengthening, relaxation, going back and forth at the same time, right?
Yeah, and it's like all over body balancing. So working through the front is also working the back. It's not just holding in one place. And I think, there is a time and a place for static stretching, but I think when people are looking for gaining flexibility or gaining mobility, feeling more stable and strong in their bodies, passive stretching isn't the answer. And passive stretching is a great answer for post-workout when you just want to let your muscles relax, right? Like, that's fantastic. But if people are using passive stretching to like try to get quad mobility, or to try to get hamstring mobility, or to like fix a shoulder issue or something, it's not really going to be that beneficial, because your body won't adapt to it. Your body will adapt to strength training. It will adapt when you add a load. So if you're just doing a passive stretch, like it has benefit in the short term.
Right.
And that even comes like when we talk more, if I tell you more about like the springs that I was talking about, like if I take a spring and hold it here and I drop a weight on it, it'll drop a certain amount, right? Mm-hmm. And if I let the weight hang there, it'll continue dropping down. But I'm not big enough. How do I get? Okay, so then if that weight, like if this is the stopping point where it drops and it kind of stops here, and then it continues dropping down, then this distance here between where it naturally stopped and where it like continues to hold, it's not really a safe range of motion, because it can't spring back until it gets to this point. So you're running into, like with passive stretching, you're running into unsafe ranges of motion. And so it does come into play. I have to fight a lot of times with people who do a lot of extreme stretching, dancers and yoga students mainly, because they really like the way that a passive stretch feels.
Right.
But when you get into that range, there's a phenomenon called creep that our body does. It very slowly will come back to that point, and it literally creeps, right? That's the actual term. That's the way our body works. So in those like maybe 12 to 48 hours, sometimes it's even longer, of the creep happening, you feel really stretched out, but then you have to do it again. So people are stretching every day. They're going to yoga 5 or 6 times a week. Some people go multiple times a day to continue getting those gains. And in my opinion, if you have to do something every day, it's not working, right? It doesn't work.
How often do people do Kihara?
How often? You don't ever have to if you want. I mean, it's
what's
funny.
Recommended, I should say. When someone needs it, what's you're saying going every day and stretching every day, obviously it's not working if you need to do it every day. So with Kihara resistance stretching,
it's a terrible
common.
Yeah.
How often? What frequency?
It doesn't matter. That's the thing, because the gains are cumulative. So I have some clients who come to group class once a month, and they come back again and they keep making gains. Or like people who come in for sessions. Sometimes when, what's ideal, if I am working with a client who really wants to make fast gains, then I'll work with them 3 times a week, and then I'll start weaning them off. So they'll do 3 times a week, maybe for, 2 or 3 times a week for a couple weeks, maybe 4 weeks. And then I'll pull them down. And then eventually they're coming in like every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, maybe once a month. I have clients who come see me once a year, every 6 months, just for tune-ups when they do something stupid. But when you have an issue, like I said, with my shoulder and with everything, I mean, when I was working with this guy, his name's Bjorn. When I was working with Bjorn, I could never touch my toes my entire life, like never, not even when I was a child. And after working with him, I just one day was like, I wonder if I can touch my toes. And I bent over and touched the floor. And I was like, what the what? Like, and I've been able to touch my toes ever since. You don't regress. So like when you think about like, if you were running, for instance, like if you're a runner, you need to run all the time. Otherwise you lose it. Or if you're, you lose your endurance abilities, you just lose your chops, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't happen here because it's building neuromuscular connections. And when your body feels safe, it'll just be open. When it feels balanced, it'll just be open. And that strength that happens from like a front to back balancing, a top to bottom balancing, it gives you a really strong center of gravity, which makes you feel more stable overall. And then when you work out, your workouts are more effective. Everything just works better when your body's in good balance. And it doesn't regress unless you do something stupid. Like, and I don't want to say stupid, but like, if you fall down the stairs or like have an accident, or for people who are working out pretty heavily, they may need for recovery. They may need it just for recovery, but not to fix problems. So once the problem's fixed, it's fixed and it doesn't.
Wow. And so you can just maintain it as you like and come as often or as little as you like, or based on when you need it.
Mm-hmm. I would say most people for my group classes would come like once a week, or every 2 weeks. And that seems to be a pretty, like for people who really want to keep on a long-term schedule, right. That's a really good schedule. Stretching once a week is fine. And for me, I stretch, I mean, you'd think I stretch every day. No, I stretch once a week, maybe, not all the time, because my body feels pretty good most of the time just to moving. I've
been doing it this whole time.
Yeah. And
you've already created that healthy body.
Right, exactly. And so that's the thing, like once you start taking care of your body in the right way, then it's, it's actually for me very efficient. And that feels
Let's
good.
go back to, so earlier I was saying that one of the differences with Kihara resistance stretching is like, obviously with passive, you're holding. With the Kihara method, you're resisting and you're having some strength, but you're also relaxing. Well, when we talk about your typical dynamic active stretching, there also is some strengthening and some relaxing there. So is there a way to easily explain the difference from your typical active dynamic stretching versus Kihara?
Yeah, Kihara is strength training. Like it's eccentrics.
Okay, so it's more of a strength training type of flexibility option and
yeah. So like for active
stretching, the term stretching, we're kind of going out of that realm, what most people think then of the word stretching.
Bingo. Yes.
Okay.
And this has been a problem that, and I wouldn't say problem, but it's something that we've really, like in the Kihara community, we have really struggled with is like, do we even call it stretching?
I was just going to say that. Why call it stretching?
Because it's lengthening the muscle, and the benefit, like the end benefit, the end range is that you have a bigger end range, right? Like that's what happens is that you end up more flexible.
Okay.
Strong. And it feels like stretching, right? So and it looks like stretching. So it is stretching. I don't know. What is stretching?
Okay. I mean, but it's strength training at the same time.
Yeah.
A different form of strength training.
Yeah, but it feels good. So it doesn't feel like you don't get the same kind of burn as you do when you're doing like reps of strength training. But it actually can build, like eccentrics can build a lot more strength than concentrics. That and some soreness too, but and then your body adapts, and it's pretty amazing. So that so I would say, like, if I was going to do a dynamic stretch where I'm just using like gravity or body weight, or body weight wouldn't even really count, an active dynamic stretch. I don't know. I feel like you don't relax in a Kihara stretch, if that makes sense.
Yes. Okay. That's a good way of putting it, because in your typical active stretch, you're getting to that stretch point, but then you relax and you come out of it. And then you get to that stretch point and then you relax. So with Kihara, you're never fully relaxing. You've constantly got the resistance.
We're moving and resisting all the time.
Okay.
All the time.
That's a great way of saying it.
That's the main mechanic of it. But also what's really amazing is that we have a third rule. And the third rule is that if anything hurts, stop. And that goes back to what I was saying before about our problem solving. So a lot of times people think that stretching needs to hurt to be beneficial. And it's not true. It's not true at all. In fact, when your body feels pain in a stretch, it sends a signal to your brain, and your brain says, okay, I don't want to do that again. So let's rewire. And you get compensation patterns, right? So, so actually stretching to the point of pain is not beneficial at all. And if you can add resistance to a stretch, then you actually can't resist if you're in pain. So it will, because your body will try to do something different. So so it's really hard to do, or you can't resist with the right muscle. You can resist with the compensating muscle.
Yes, exactly.
But it's the wrong muscle. And so by listening to your body, and this is something that I really focus on in my classes, even on like YouTube classes or on Thinkific, like these like video classes, I really focus on what you can do. Like if this stretch isn't working, and here's how you know it's not working, then don't do it. And then we'll move on into the next one. So for instance, the stretch I was doing on the wall, that quad stretch, if it's good, you feel a stretch in your quads and you know you're good to go. But if you don't feel anything, if you get cramps, if you feel pain in the like groin area, if there's pain in the knee, if there's pain in the foot, I mean, there's all sorts of issues that could come up. And that's not just, to me, pain. They're actually signs that there's something different going on. And it means that your brain's actually sending the signal to another muscle to create a barrier to keep you from being in that position. I mean, even like the fear of getting in that position, or like sometimes people get in the position, they just fall over. That's also your body saying, this is not good. We better just fall over. Sometimes people get nauseous even. And in real life, if you were doing anything where you felt nauseous, you would stop doing it.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah,
it's your body's response to tell you like, hey, this is not what we want to do right now. There's a problem. And there is a way to fix it. There's a whole formula to it. And so we figured that out, and it's amazing and it's quick. It's so quick that like a problem in the quad, on that quad stretch, I can fix in like 3 minutes in a group class. It's amazing, and it's like that fast. So, you know, it's pretty powerful stuff, and I talk about it like it's magic. There is science behind it, so it's not really magic, but it feels like
it makes people feel great though.
Yeah.
So it's magic in that sense, especially when someone's been in pain for a while, from whatever reasons, you know what I'm saying? But you've motivated me to go see if I can find that manual and everything I have from way back in the day, although I don't know if I'll be able to find it, because now it's motivated me to get back into it. Because it was a long time ago when you came out to LA and I took that class. I mean, that was...
It had to have been 10 years at least.
Yeah. I'm sure it's somewhere, but where? That's the question. No, I'm glad this is great. This has really re-sparked a lot of, and like right now, for example, I'm going to PT for a little hip issue I've got, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is something that I should do, right? Because, you know, I'm an athlete. I've had so many issues with my body over the years, and I've gone to this, I've done that, and some things work, some things don't work, and sometimes things are very frustrating. So you know what? When we get off of this, I'm going to be contacting you, and I need to get back into this and see if you can help me with some of the things that I'm doing. But this is great. I mean, because like you said, some things work for some people, but not everything works for everybody. And the key with this show is to help people live that new healthy lifestyle and to find ways they can be happy and fulfilled in life. And if you're in pain, you're not happy. And if you're not happy, you're not feeling fulfilled in life. So this is going to be great. And before we let you go, I know you're going to be offering the viewers an awesome item. So we've got the Kihara beginner workout video that you're going to be giving everyone for free, correct?
Yeah. It's on Thinkific, which is a platform for learning. And so there's other videos on there, workshops and everything, but I'll have that video ready for you to try out some stretches and see. And I'll tell you, like, people know, like, you do resistance stretching once, you'll know it's for you or not. So it's worth trying out to see.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Carrie. I really appreciate you having on the show. And everybody else, thank you for watching. And I hope you've learned a lot today. I know we got a little sciencey, but sometimes us fitness folks, we just can't help it. We love it. But I hope you guys understood what we were talking about. But if not, feel free, reach out to Carrie, ask more. She's available for your help. And thank you so much, Carrie. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.